And welcome back to Patriarchy Principles, the podcast where we explore the values of faith, family, and leadership in addressing the challenges of our time. The show is about empowering fathers, leaders, and families to make intentional action, to take intentional action. Well, I guess you could make intentional actions and create a lasting legacy. I'm your host, Jay, and today I'm joined by Matt, the founder of GSD Nation and host of the Programming Lions podcast. Matt's journey from a successful seven-figure corporate career. Seven, that's seven. That's like athlete money right there. So that's kind of crazy. But a successful seven-figure corporate career to starting a movement with his kids is a powerful example of leadership and dedication. Through GSD Nation, Matt is on a mission to inspire critical thinking, ooh, scary, and productivity while tackling some of the most pressing issues in society, from wealth building to education reform. Today, we'll explore what kids need to learn to succeed, how to foster purpose and productivity, and the hard truths about societal trends shaping our future. So, Matt, welcome to the show.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Man, and I joke when it comes to critical thinking because people hear those words together and like, and it's like, ooh, don't be scared. It's not that scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we need it more than ever, I'll tell you.
More than ever. So let's start here. Why leave a seven-figure job to start GSD Nation?
Yeah.
And then also explain what GSD Nation is, please.
Yeah, we can do that. And so it's, the short answer is I had a great corporate career at a great company. We were a public company. And so, part of that, a lot of that was related to stock that I had in the company as we went through a real hyper growth phase. And so I got to benefit from a lot of that. And so sometimes being in the right place at the right time and having the right role and obviously putting in a lot of hard work. And so I'd say I was instrumental to a lot of the growth that the company had as well. But ultimately, around the time of COVID, I just started looking around, and the company that I started at was around 250 people, and now it was like thousands of people. And when companies go into these big growth phases, they really sort of like they can change their culture a little bit. And what I found is it just became a little bit of a cultural mismatch for me. I just found myself to be more effective in a scrappier, smaller environment where people were really incentivized to get things done, and it became a more bureaucratic and more corporate juggernaut type of business. And I think different people are better at operating in those kinds of conditions, and it just wasn't a great fit for me. And so I think for me, it was just like have the self-awareness to sort of recognize that and eject, and worked out a good plan with the executive team for a graceful transition, hired my replacements, and then I went into what I'm doing now. And part of what inspired me with that was just looking around me and seeing everything that's happening in society and in culture wars, and looking at my two children and not wanting them to get sucked into the degenerate vortex that is potentially out there for them. And so I thought, well, what a great opportunity to spend time with them, quality time. I doubt that I'll look back and say, well, I wish I wouldn't have spent more time with my kids. So can I do something interesting with them and build entrepreneurial spirit, build skills, and build memories together? So I broke out and started GSD Nation, which is really our business brand and our social media brand. And then we started our Programming Lions podcast. So I run a podcast with my children, and they are now 11 and 13. When we started this, they were 10 and 12. And they primarily run the podcast. They are asking the questions, and we're meeting interesting people, and they're developing conversational skills, question skills, and all of this. And so for those reasons, we really enjoy that. And we've been at it for about a little over a year now, and we've grown. We're building a community, and we're learning a lot on the journey as well, which we could probably get into. But that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Really cool. Really cool. Yeah, so your reason's pretty simple. Some people, I meet a lot of people, especially from just around, that are leaving these high-paying corporate jobs to kind of start something on their own because it's just not, they're not having that same motivation, right? They're missing that intrinsic motivation, right? It was there at once upon a time to do whatever they wanted to do, but then they, just go. Priorities change over time. You mentioned being able to spend more time with your kids. I'm sure a seven-figure job sucks a lot of hours a week, sucks more than 40 hours a week. And, that's time that you want back with your family, back to be with them, spend time with them, especially as they're getting older. especially during COVID when, I mean, they're home anyways. Um, get back some extra years there, but it's really cool. But podcasting, the idea with your kids running it is really cool to teach them those conversation skills, to teach them those thinking skills, to make ask questions and to listen. And those are skills that kids just are not encouraged to learn
Right.
in
Right.
any other setting.
Yeah, and well, you run a podcast. It's not easy. You've got to acquire your guests. You've got to think about what topics you want to go over, build your question list, manage the guest. And so for kids, it's, I mean, they're getting better at it as we go, but they're learning it. It's not just, you don't just show up and like, it just all happens. And preparing, doing research on your guest, and then being able to have a good conversation, ask follow-up questions during the interviews. So these are all things that they have been learning and getting better at. And to your point, it's great skills for kids. Like we've always had the mentality of we're going to talk to our kids like adults for the most part.
Mhm.
And include them in dinner conversation, or when we go out to eat with family, they are like with us and part of the conversation. They're not just sitting in a corner reading their iPads or whatever. And so they've always generally like had good adult conversation skills, but this is really teaching them a lot more, and they're enjoying it along the way because they have input into like what kind of guests might we want to bring on, and we don't get everybody that they want. They wanted Mr. Beast. We're still working on that, but we reach out to people that they want to have on, and or in genres that they want to talk about, and so they're part of the process.
That's very cool. And all those skills, they're all life skills, right? They're skills that kids aren't going to be taught in school, right? They're not going
Yeah,
to be taught in school how to reach out to someone new, how to go and chase a lead, or to come up with questions, right? All that stuff's done for them,
right,
right? They don't have to think about those things. They don't have to
right.
think about research beyond a very shallow level, right? Research bananas and write a 2-page paper on it, kind of thing,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
That's like the highest level that they get to in high school these days, it feels like.
yeah,
Right, and then they go to college and they're slammed with 20, 30 pages, and then they go into a master's program, and then they're writing 60-page papers, I know from experience,
yeah,
and yeah, it's wild. It's absolutely wild, the gaps there.
yeah. Yeah, agreed. There's a lot of things kids don't necessarily learn in school that they should or need to, and so we definitely try to focus on those at home. Our kids go to a good school. It's a charter school, but more and more, even we're at this point considering more of a hybrid learning program. A lot of parents are out there doing the shift over to homeschooling. The homeschooling shift is like a hockey stick right now. Everybody is doing it. They want that freedom. They want the time with their kids. They want their kids to learn the right things. So we try to sort of do that in a few different ways. Um, but yeah, like those are skills that they need, and school's good at teaching you how to sort of sit in place, be obedient, and a lot of times they're educating to the average. And so, yeah, it's important that you're able to sort of stretch your skills or use your abilities in a way that can help you like understand and build lifelong skills.
Absolutely, yeah. No, and there's plenty of documentation, there's plenty of fact behind it, but schools were created public schools were created to create factory workers, and it's never
That's right.
changed. Right, they were created to create factory workers, and kids now aren't factory workers. A lot of our kids now that are sitting in public school, they don't wanna sit still because they can't sit still, not because every kid has ADHD. I don't think that's true at
Right.
all. They're
Right.
just hyperactive little 5 and 6-year-olds and 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds. They don't wanna sit still, they don't wanna sit in the damn classroom all day.
It's very unnatural, to be
It's
honest.
very unnatural. Even as adults, we have, sometimes some of these podcasts, I'm not saying with you, Matt, I don't think it's gonna be the case at all, but
Of course not.
I've done 200 plus of these, podcasts, and there's some that I'm just sitting there for an hour, and I'm just like, I have a pile of fidget toys by my
Okay.
desk,
Yeah.
and I'm just, like, fidgeting, I'm like, oh my gosh," kinda thing. I was like, "I just wanna get through this hour." So sometimes the hour can feel really long,
Yeah.
but that's besides the point. It's really hard for kids. I think from at least my thoughts on it, I would love to hear your thoughts on, universal school choice that the new administration Trump 2.0 wants to put in place is universal school choice for all states. I think is it Tennessee? I think Tennessee is currently hearing arguments on the House floor to pass those laws.
Right.
and they would be the 13th state, I believe. Something like that.
Yeah, and
Something
in
like that.
Arizona where we live, we have school choice, and so you can pretty much select where you want to go.
Very cool. So what is that like? So what are your thoughts on as a parent having school choice for your kids? Because I haven't talked to anyone that lives in an area where they have school choice. This is really interesting.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts on school choice? How does it actually like work for
yeah,
you guys?
yeah. I think it's great. Now, I'm not a expert on education policies necessarily,
Natural.
but
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
what I can say is it works here. A lot of people really enjoy it. You can go to a great like Christian Catholic private school, and you have the option to do that. You can go to a charter school. You can go to a public school. We have all of the above have good reputations in different areas around the city here. We live in Phoenix. And so our kids, like I said, go to a charter school, but there's a great public school that's right next to them that has a good reputation as well. And so I think it's good. It gives people the option. It brings maybe a little bit of a sense of competition and merit back into the school systems instead of just going into your factory and getting stamped through the assembly line of the education process. You have a system that tries to differentiate itself and attract parents and families into their school system. And that, I think, makes school systems better. I think that's what capitalism is built on. I think that's that competition and that drive is what makes things better. And so when you have a cookie cutter type of education system, which is what, let's just say, the Department of Education and a lot of our institutional leaders want, you don't actually get the best outcomes because it's not optimized for that. It's not optimized for the desire to go there and the outcomes. It's just optimized for consistency. So, yes, I think school choice is amazing. I'd like to see more of it. I'd like to see us privatizing all of schools, and I'd like to see us abolishing the Department of Education. All relevant statistics around education have declined since Carter put that in place. So that's a big topic on the docket for Trump and the new administration, and it just hasn't worked. Like I can tell you, I was on the board at our school last year, and they have a lot of things that they want to do, but they have all these sort of restrictions from the top. As a charter school, you're essentially a public school, so you're still resigned to a lot of the policies and practices. And it's very much about like hitting quotas. It's about hitting quotas for certain days, certain curriculum, certain test scores, and it's all like to the average, right? It's not about optimizing every kid's life. And so for those reasons, I love, kind of private and school choice.
That's really cool. Of course, with like private schools, and I think some charter schools, there's a different cost versus public school then. So is there like and I'm just curious, you don't have to say personally, you can talk about just like
Mm-hmm.
at a whole with the landscape and being on the board and whatnot. But is there like, how does that difference in cost happen? Like, where does that difference in cost come from? Does it come out of the pocket of the parents? Does it come out of pocket of in form of like a tax credit, or how does that work normally?
Yeah, great question. I can speak in terms of Arizona, how we do it. So a public school is publicly funded. Now, of course, they run campaigns for donations to the school. You might go, parents might go to an event where they're trying to raise money for the new gym or whatever, and then you can do those things. It's just really the same for a charter school. However, a charter school is not funded at the same level as a public school, so they have to make up some of the difference. Now, there's no requirement at our school for a parent to contribute. So you can put your kid in, and if you're low income and you don't have the means to contribute to it, that's fine. There's no real pressure to do it. Obviously, we want all families to contribute, and we have a target. They say, well, hey, we'd like to see you contribute $2,500 per child. That helps us make up the gap between what the state gives us and what we give your child in terms of their education. And so a lot of families try to do that and try to make up the gap. And some families can make up more than that, and that kind of helps balance the school. And so we'll run events, we'll run charity events and auctions and so forth around whether it's specific things like a new gym or a new football field or just general funds that can help make up that gap. And typically on an annual basis, we are able to make up the gap at our school through these charitable funding programs. So that's sort of the public and charter. And then when it gets to private school, it's different. Those have a tuition requirement, but there's a state tax credit that can be applied for. And you can do that multiple ways. So if, let's just say I have a child that's going to an expensive $20,000 private school here, I can donate money to a private school education in the name of a child. I think it's not my child, but I can do it for another child. And then that lowers the tuition cost for them. And so every person in the state can do that with 100% tax rebate up to, I think it's like $2,900 or something. So if you've got a number of family members and friends that don't have kids or their kids are growing up, you can leverage this tax credit system to greatly reduce your child's tuition at a private school. So we're seeing that open up the doors for a lot of other people to go into these private schools, which can be good. So
Interesting.
that's roughly how it works here.
Interesting.
I'm sure I got something wrong, but
No, you're fine. I mean, I don't know. So it's falling on uneducated ears here. I've always just been curious, like, how the heck does it? Where does the money come from, and try to things like that. So that's something I probably need to research more on my own. But the idea of school choice is really great because past administrations, past years, have tried to take that choices away from parents, kick parents out of schools, which is really weird. Like, anyone that supports that and supports parents being not informed on different things, on not being informed on their kid's gender, or not being informed on their kid wants to be a boy or transit or anything like that.
wow.
Anyone that feels okay, any teacher that feels okay with doing that, that's kind of fucking weird. Not gonna lie. Because
it's not kind of, it's super weird.
it's super fucking weird.
It's super fucking weird.
Like, why are you supportive of that? Like, why are you so supportive of keeping this kid's parents out of the situation?
Mm-hmm.
You're not their parent, you're their teacher. And teachers should be there only to teach math, reading, writing, science, and whatever the fuck else they teach, right? That's what they're there for. They're there to teach those things. That's it. Stop. Beginning, end. They should not be mentioning anything about their political affiliations, anything about their gender, anything about their sexual orientation, or anything like that. In my opinion, if teachers are doing that, they're failing as a teacher. They could still be great. I don't know, but there's something wrong there. If your students know that, especially if they're in like the fucking third grade, I don't know, or if your kids are having to walk around a school that has a freaking pride flag or trans flag on the library. It's like, why do kids need to see that?
Yeah.
That doesn't educate them on anything. That's just in my eyes, that's indoctrination. I don't love it. I don't love it.
Yeah.
But it's just weird to try to keep parents out of it.
Majority of parents don't, and I think it goes beyond that. I think it's evil. Like it's an evil ideology. It's absolutely indoctrination. They're pushing, these advocates are so aggressive and assertive in these small fringe groups that they get their stuff into the education curriculum in the classrooms, and they get radicalized, and then they push this stuff on to kids. It's wrong. It's evil. There's no place for it. And so I think you're seeing more and more parents recognizing it, standing up, going to school board meetings. What is this? Why is this reading material? Why is this pornography in my kid's library? Why are we talking about, gender ideology and sexual orientation in the classroom to you? So to your point, I think people are waking up, but it's like a lot of things in terms of destructive ideologies, I think, where they get pushed and pushed and pushed until somebody's like, whoa. And this is like, here's the line. And when it comes to kids, I think a lot of parents are now standing up, but it's pretty wild. And unfortunately, it's been pushed through education systems in other areas now for years and decades, to the point that there's a lot of damage that's been done. And you can see it with trends in society and things like mental health, self-harm, suicide rates, affiliation to LGBT, for example, traditional families, kids' interest in sex, or even young adults' interest in having kids. Like all of these statistics are moving in the wrong direction, and it's sad. And you have to look at, like, well, where does it start? And it's sad because you can't help but think that the government and some of those like entities are at play here, because there is almost like an intentional drive to get people so extended that they can't spend time with their kids, and the state gets to raise their kids. So let's inflate the currency. Let's inflate all the asset prices so that people got to work 2 jobs, or both people at home got to work a job just to get by, and then we can raise the kids. Big government, or Big Brother, let's say, in our 1984 reference. So I think people are waking up to it, though.
Absolutely. Have you ever read the book Point Man
I'm
by
not.
Steve Farr? Okay, you
No.
would love this book. Get it on
Okay.
Amazon or download it. You will love this book,
Yeah.
and it's going to talk about a lot of things you're saying right now. It goes back, it breaks down exactly, and any man listening to this podcast that has not read Point Man, it was published in 1990. I think there's a revised version since then, but Point Man, How a Man Can Lead His Family, it breaks down exactly what Matt's saying here, how the evil has come and broken down our system, and how it's really been the adversary, the devil, coming in to break apart families, to break apart the nuclear family, and to add in all this woke, crazy ideology, right?
Mhm.
And who was I was talking to someone recently. I think it was someone I work with, and we're just having a private, closed door conversation.
Sure.
Can't say these things with the door open. We'll get fired. But we were like, yeah, man, anything beyond man and woman is mental illness. They
Mhm.
said that, not me. And I was like, well, you're not wrong. But you're so right here, right? It's evil, and it's exactly what man, Steve Farr does a phenomenal job of breaking it down in that book.
Yeah. I'll have to check this out.
It will blow
Yeah,
your mind, dude.
it's almost like it was an intentional psyop, and there's, of course, a lot of, I mean,
100%. It's
conspiracy
exactly
theorists that will say it's an intentional psyop by our adversaries, whether it be Russia or China, to infiltrate and get people sort of mind effed into believing these things, and then they start to sort of like we start to eat ourselves away from within, and so they don't have to ever fire a shot. They can destroy America through this massive psyop. And boy, it's hard not to believe that there's something to that.
yeah, it's coming from somewhere, right? It's coming from somewhere because that's exactly what it's done. We see all-time division. I mean, over just the last election, how many social media posts did you see? Oh, well, if you're a Trump supporter, I can't talk to you anymore, even if we've been friends for 20 years. Like, I don't want anything to do with you. Like, I had
Yeah,
people who I share the same genetics with block me. I'm
yeah,
like, what the hell is wrong with you?
yeah,
I'm not gonna block you just because you voted for Kamala. I'm sorry that you're dumb, but I probably shouldn't have said that
yeah,
part.
yeah.
But
Well, but they are so conditioned to believe that political ideologies can drive people like away from being
yeah,
friends. They'll say,
yeah,
well, if you like
they're
Trump,
trained
you're
to believe that.
obviously a racist, and I don't associate with racists.
You're racist, you're Nazi, you're rapist,
Yeah,
you're all these things. But that's a classic tactism of Marxism,
yeah,
is to accuse them of what you're doing while you continue to do it, right?
yes, yes, exactly. Yeah,
Kind of classic. And then, oh, lo and behold, Hunter Biden's laptop was real. Oh, lo and behold, you go and research Kamala a little bit. And I think Candace Owens did a great job on the Kamala Chronicles when she did that breakdown. I
hmm,
doubt Candace Owens will ever see this, but her Kamala Chronicles were hilarious and also crazy eye-opening because Kamala's whole life basically is a lie.
yeah,
Her whole reputation's based on a lie. She's not even black, really, and it's just crazy. It's just crazy, all the lies and everything that we're pushed to believe. It's just wild. Some of it's just wild, but no, we're pushed, and our kids are brainwashed with all this stuff at such a young age
yeah,
and indoctrinated to think a certain way, to hear a certain thing, and all these things. And no parent, myself included, wants to have a conversation with their 7, 8-year-old saying, hey, honey, when you go to school, just remember that there's only boys and girls.
hmm,
And
yeah,
if they try to say that they're not a boy or girl, then ask them, are you a boy or girl? And if they try to keep saying, I'm neither, ask them, well, what are you then? Are you a boy or are you a girl? And just keep pounding that question. You get
yeah,
in trouble. I don't care.
yeah,
That's fine. And, the confusion that our kids are feeling, but that confusion not only comes from social media, but also comes from within the home, because it feels like a lot of parents who are LGBTQ, and I can speak for this firsthand because I've seen it, they push that same ideology on their kids. They push that same agenda onto their kids, that where I've seen it in a family to where the dad is now mom, and then when asked a question, it's like, well, what do you identify as? And then the mom now, the parent, the dad, says, oh well, they don't know yet, speaking for
Okay.
them. And yeah, exactly. And then the kid gets mad and frustrated to the point where I'm not fucking like that, blah 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 blah. I'm a fucking boy and all this other shit. It's kids that don't want to subscribe to this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's confusing. It's
It's
confusing.
yeah, I think now and I know you have a psychology background, but as just a normal guy, dad, I've just found that kids need clarity in their life, and when they have clarity in their life around
Yeah,
information or making decisions or right from wrong,
values.
it helps them. Yes, values. It helps them align and get organized. And with all of this confusion and changing terminology, whether it's gender spectrum or other clever terms that we see in society in terms of language changes. It really is confusing for kids, and it's intentional, right? And you mentioned Marxist ideologies. A lot of these go back to the root and of Marxist confusion. So it is wild. Like, I know people that are raising their young children to not have a gender until they decide what it is.
It was
I just
decided for you when they were born.
I
It was decided already. Guess what, Matt? When your kids were born, their gender was decided. Not your kids. I know your kids know, but like my girls know. Like, you're a girl. Like, you can, you know, if you like Pokemon, great. Get Pokemon shirts. If you want princess dresses, great. You get princess dresses. And
Yep.
something in between, great. You can wear that. That's fine. If that's what you want to wear and be comfortable in, I don't care. But you're still a girl at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, people still operate on maybe a spectrum of femininity to masculinity, and like some girls are more tomboyish, and that's fine. Like, they're into sports, they're into this or that,
So
and
what?
some boys are less into sports and they're more into, let's say, arts and creative things, and so like that's all fine. That's normal.
And at the
That's how
extreme end of
society's
that
been
spectrum,
forever.
you get Harry Sisson. Boys go from uh, John Cena to Harry Sisson, and you
Yeah.
want them somewhere in the middle, leaning toward John Cena. Hopefully,
Yes. Yeah.
not leaning
Harry
toward
Sisson.
Harry Sisson at all.
I
He's the
follow him
worst end of
just
that
for
spectrum.
entertainment. I just got to see what he has to say.
Oh my god, dude! His whole thing where it's like, oh my god, it's been 2 days, and his fake nails and makeup
Hmm.
on his face and that bullshit. It's like, oh my god, egg prices and housing prices. It's been 2 days, guys. Come on. It's like, shut the fuck up. You're just trying to rage bait, and people agree with you, and it's like, oh my god, like, how are people, and that's what I don't get it. I don't get it. How are people so subscribed to these ideas? How are people so fucking brainwashed to the point to where they're like, yeah, it's been a week and egg prices are higher now. Well, guess what? That's what happens when they were increasing before the end of the last administration. And now that's carrying over into this one. Oh, gas
Yeah.
prices are going up because they were carrying over because we had terrible energy policies. We
Yeah.
had terrible international relations, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So people just, they don't see that. They don't see that. They don't get it.
You bring up a great question, and you may have more insight to this, just with your education. But people have gotten brainwashed into believing all these things, and my opinion is, like, just talk. And we've talked to a lot of people over the last year in our business and what we do now. But people are so tribalized into their ideas that they're just like, it doesn't matter. They're unwilling to even open their minds and critically think
Mhm.
about, well, why do I believe that? And is it right? And what does the other side look like? And then can I come to a conclusion by understanding both? It's really so tribal. Like, I don't know if we unwind people out of it. And so for me personally, I was like, well, I'm going to get involved with my kids. I see a lot of people outsourcing parenting these days. And so I wanted to get involved with my kids directly so that I can circumvent this woke mind virus and other things, and spend quality time with my kids and teach them
Absolutely.
entrepreneurial skills and all this. But I feel like to reverse this massive psyop trend, we almost have to like work it in the opposite direction. Like, get parents back to faith, family, freedom first, all of these things, and build those values into our children at very young ages, so
Mhm.
that they are essentially brainwash proof by the time they get into like teenage years and definitely college years, where the systems are heavily weighted towards this liberal bias framework. And so I think it's going to be a multi-decade process of rebuilding.
Yeah.
Like,
No, and
I
it's
don't know.
also you also need the so 98% of college professors are liberal, right?
Hmm.
That's just across the board.
Yeah.
The only schools that aren't are you take out schools in Idaho, Utah, and that's about your 2% right there.
Sure. Okay.
Um, you take out the Mormons, and the rest of the schools are pretty liberal leaning.
Hmm.
And I rag on the Mormons because I used to be Mormon. I'm an ex-Mormon, so but I rag on that. But you have to have so we don't have the first problem is, and this is something that Trump had announced that he's going to work on during his administration, is creating an alternative the other direction, right? So we need more alternatives in the other direction. We need more alternatives to public school, some more private Christian, Catholic, fuck it, Mormon, I don't care. Like more private religious
Yeah.
education systems at the
Yeah.
elementary and post-elementary level. So K through 12 level, we need more alternatives there for different families, or we need something there, right? Additionally, you need that at the college level too. You need a higher level of education that's going to be a polar opposite, and it can't be just kind of opposite.
Hmm.
Has to be tit for tat opposite of the most liberal of universities,
Yeah.
and you need those everywhere in
Yeah.
proximity to these current universities because you got to give people a choice. Right now, there's no choice, right? Or you have to make things like trades and military service and all these things cool again,
Hmm.
appealing
Hmm.
to kids to want to go and do them. But a lot of kids aren't going to want to go to the military because, well, that's hard. You have to run and do all this stuff. So you have to make that normalized again. So you have to get healthy again, right? Robert Kennedy Jr. Okay, so hold on, stay with me here. So you do all that, then you start to do that, right?
Yep.
First step is dismantling the Department of Education, which Stephanie McMahon has been tasked with. She has 4 short years to do it. But with the last name of McMahon, being married to Vince McMahon, you're a crazy woman as it is.
Yeah.
You're a crazy son of a bitch as it is. If anyone can do it and is radical and crazy and off the chain enough to go and do it, it's Trump's administration led by Stephanie McMahon in that department. Because her goal, her task that she was given when she was appointed to this position was to your goal in the next 4 years is to dismantle this thing. We're going to flatten that building and we're going to turn it into a park.
Hmm.
Or turn that into a freedom park. That's the goal of some of these big, huge buildings is let's get all these people out pretty much. Let's dismantle this department because we don't need it. Save the money here and flatten this building so it can never come back again. Let's
Hmm.
eradicate it, right? And the
Yeah.
deep state hates that. They're fighting this stuff tooth and nail. We're already seeing those fights and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy. But then even before that, with that being dismantled, we have to give an option for parents to be back in the home. We have to give an option to get parents back at home more. We have
Right.
to find a way to make that a sustainable, possible way without giving more welfare, without giving more tax, without giving more. Like
Yeah.
there has to be an incentive, yes. There also has to be an incentive to have more kids because we're facing a population crash here in the next within the next 2-3 generations, I believe.
Yeah. Right.
So what we have to do is we have to get these kids back in the home somehow. We have to get the kids back in the home and get the parents back in the home with the kids. And by doing that, you then have mothers who can mother their children until we can go back to Little House on the Prairie times, right? Kind of, but a modern version of that to where kids can stay at home until they're 6, 7, 8 or 6, 7, 8 years old and, you know, be raised and all the things until they're ready to either go to school or, the boys can go start working with their dads like they used to,
Hmm.
which raised a strong generation. These boys at 8 years old were getting up with their dads. So if Matt, I'm not sure if you have boys or a boy or two,
Two
but
boys. Yeah.
2 boys. So your boys would essentially get up with you. So let's say that happened somehow overnight, right? We were there. Your
Hmm.
boys would get up with you first thing in the morning. You guys would all get ready, eat breakfast stuff together, and then out the door you go to wherever you're working, whatever you're doing, right?
Hmm.
They would go and they would work with you. So they're working, they're learning, they're picking up those skills, right? And then as they get closer to, 17, 18, and then they start to figure out, well, you start to ask them, okay, what do you want to do for your apprenticeship? What do you
Mhm.
want to do? Kind of thing. And they're like, oh, well, I want to go and let's think of 2025. I want to go and run a farm, or I want to go and do such and such. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go and oversee your apprenticeship. Then you get to take them. You call up who you trust,
Mhm.
right? So you're still in control here. You call up Billy, who runs a really successful ranch in your area, right?
Mhm.
You're like, hey, Billy, little Johnny, he wants to learn how to run a farm. That's what he wants to do. Can we come and work with you? Right. So then what happens is now you go and work your job for half a day, and then you take your son over to Billy's ranch, and then you're overseeing his growth there,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
You're not working there too. Billy's not getting double free labor, but he's getting to teach your son and you're overseeing it. And then if Billy does something you don't like, you can be there in the moment. Hey, 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 Billy, I love you. You're a great friend. But you can't. I don't want my son being taught that. Can you not teach him that? Can we just focus on farming kind of thing? And then
Mhm.
Billy, oh yeah, sorry, Matt. Sorry, I forgot your son. Respect, right? That's how we kind of start to eradicate it and create it for the next generation. But we lost that when public schools came in, because dads would go to work and kids would stay home with mom. And then as soon as they got to a certain age and they go to school, then they're raised by more women. And then they're raised by femininity. And then they're raised all these things. And it was just a cycle that we're caught in now
Yeah.
so deeply.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. There's so many factors that have built into it. Like you covered a number. I mean, feminism, I think, was also designed to get women out of the home and into the workplace. Like I can tell you, like feminism obviously hasn't improved women's mental health or happiness and their a sense of purpose. I can just tell you, like, there's no, you're a parent, but there's no bigger purpose than having children. And so that certainly in inflation of everything, just the cost of being able to live, like when I would talk to my grandparents, like it was very, very normal to have one person at home and you can afford to live like that. Today it's very different. I think it's intentional. So
100%.
yeah, we've got to get back to it. And the decline of religion, that's having a bit of a resurgence now in recent years, which is good to see. But when people don't have religion, they replace that gap with something else, whether it be LGBT ideology or climate change activism or whatever. Not to say that not all these things are bad, but you need some underpinning like faith and set of values in your world. And if you don't have it, you'll seek something. You'll seek something, I think.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, people have been seeking destructive things in a lot of ways, or making excuses for where they are and where they're not instead of making plans. So I don't know. Like I talk to my kids about that all the time. That you'll witness people every day making excuses for what they don't have or where they're not at. And so I don't want to hear them making excuses. I want to hear them making plans. I don't want to hear you being jealous. I want to hear you seeking to understand why that person is successful and maybe they can help you. Don't be mad at them for their success. Like they're successful probably because they work harder, or they work smarter, or they did something, not because they were they were like born with this silver spoon in their mouth. Of course that happens, but
Yeah.
most people are successful because they've like made the sacrifices and they've grinded and we're teaching our kids that, but like a lot of people are teaching like their kids that there's this class warfare out there, this Marxist ideology of
There's not these warfare ideas. They're not real. They're all fabricated,
yes, it's
right?
like
There's
chasing the
no,
boogeyman. I tell my kids it's like chasing the
yeah.
boogeyman. When we talk about let's just say social justice issues or gender pay gap or discrimination based on race or gender or sexuality, like these things are like chasing the boogeyman. They don't really exist. They don't really exist. They might exist in very small pockets and in very isolated areas, but on the general like scale, they don't exist. And so people could just get back to like focusing on how to make their life better, it'd be a lot better off.
Yeah, just focus on yourself, right? Like, yes, there is still racism, there is still discrimination, but there's no actual. And I've been in the corporate world. I've hired and I fired a lot of people. And the only reason I ever fired people was because they weren't doing the job they were supposed to be doing. I didn't fire them because of their race or their color or their creed or their sexual orientation or anything like that. I didn't fire them, just fire them. just because I wanted to, because I'm white and they're brown or black or whatever.
Yeah.
I
And that would be
fired
stupid. If they're great performers, like, why would you fire anybody? Right?
exactly. And the only reason I hired people was because I felt they were a good fit. If I feel they were a good fit, I'll keep searching. I'll keep interviewing.
Yeah.
And I would keep finding them, and I would go through all the good recommended people. They would normally suck. And then when you start going down to the maybe a good fit, likely not a good fit, oh, that's where you find the diamonds in the rough. That's where you find the good ones.
Yeah.
Right there. That's where
Yeah.
you find the best people is right there. Because the people who are green and who are the best matches for your job are typically going to be arrogant or, think they're too good or, think they can do the job, and they can do the job, but they're also lazy at the same time. And they're not as motivated. I think they think they're the hottest thing since sliced bread and shit like that, and it's not true. So, but it's important, right? It's important to have a society based on merit. It's important to have a society based on merit. You should only get the job or get the things that you want because you worked for them, you earn them, or in terms of like government aid, things like that, because you truly need it. You go through the process, you're vetted, and you get the things you need because you need them, not just because you're like, wanting them or needing them or asking for a handout or anything like that. So it's just important to make sure it's consistent across the board. Make sure the people who need it get it. To make sure the people who don't really need it don't get it. Probably one of the worst things, and where this got even worse, is the nanny state that was established by LBJ. The nanny state really destroyed our country in a terrible way.
Yeah.
Really destroyed the nuclear family. That's where a lot of it started, was the nanny state. Because when you incentivize mothers to be on their own and you take care of them, then they're gonna have more kids because they can get more, but they're gonna have less of a dad in the home.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they can get more, and they can get
And the
more and more and
stats
more.
show it. It's pretty clear. Like, since the 1950s, I was just reading this the other day about in the black community, which is sad as hell. But it was like 20% of homes did not have a father in the 50s, and today it's 80%. It's in the 75-80% of homes don't have a father. And that was the onset of all these massive social programs. And so it's a great example. It's another shining example of, like, good intentions don't always lead to good outcomes. You want to give people money to help them out, but it incentivizes the wrong things. And this happens over and over again in a lot of these liberal handout programs. And so, yeah, unfortunately, that community has a lot to climb out of now culturally, because it's been incentivized, endorsed, and celebrated this kind of lifestyle, and it's developing human beings that have a suboptimal chance of success.
Yeah. And the only way to come back with it is you have to incentivize the polar opposite as well. If you want to incentivize people being single, you also have to, and you want more families, and you want to restore the nuclear family, you incentivize the nuclear family, right? You get what you incentivize across the board.
Yes.
You get what you incentivize. Working with a little kid trying to potty train, they're not just going to go and potty train because they want to. But if you incentivize them with a couple Skittles, one Skittle if they pee, 2 Skittles if they poop in the toilet, guess what? You're going to have that kid pooping and peeing in the toilet real quick because they're motivated. They have a motivation. They're extrinsically motivated to do that. And they're also intrinsically motivated because, oh, I love candy and I'm doing this, and now I'm extrinsically motivated as well, so I get both, kind of thing. But we have to motivate the behavior we want to see. We have to incentivize it. That's the only way we're going to start to turn more and more things around quicker, is we incentivize the right behavior. And we can kind of see that now, in a sense, with the deportations that are going on, is, if you came here the right way, we're not going to come after you. If you're here illegally and you're committing crimes and whatnot, then guess what? You don't get to stay here. None of our laws or justice system or due process apply to you, kind of. And then same thing with the TikTok thing. I don't really agree that it's an issue of freedom of speech or trying to kill small business or anything. It's that it's not in American interest, and so it's not protected by the American things, right? And it doesn't help anyone. Yes, it fills up your free time while you're on the toilet, going to the bathroom, but outside of that, like, I don't see it as like it's taking away anyone's freedom of speech. At least personally, I don't see that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's obviously immigration is a huge topic right now. A lot of people are up in arms about this. Like,
We have Selena
I hope,
Gomez crying about it.
yeah, that was crazy. Now, like Obama deported 5.3 million Americans or illegals, and
Yeah.
and nobody said a thing. But now that Trump is doing it, now, like I just tell people, hey, this is what we voted for. Like overwhelmingly, Americans voted for this man to get into power to do exactly what he's doing. Now, you might not agree with it, but this is what America wanted, and so he's just carrying out what he campaigned on. And why wouldn't we want him to be expeditious about what he's going to carry through in terms of his campaign, whatever side of it on? It's like he's just doing what he said he was going to do. Yeah, but it's of course there's going to be sad circumstances in all of this, and we want immigration, but we just want it the right way. And it's like I go back and forth with people about this all the time because it's like, well, if we just open the floodgates and everything happens, like where's the point of saturation in terms of what we can bring in, who we can bring in, how we can bring it in? And then the other thing that we don't talk about that often is like what gets left behind. You've got all the let's say the best, brightest, most motivated people from these countries coming into the US. What does that mean then for these other places in the world? They actually deteriorate more. So I think we have to have a holistic thought about like what can we accept in terms of people? What kind of people do we want? From where? How many? Because we want to absolutely like bring people into the country the right way, but we also don't want to like damage the world health while we're at it. And so it's a very complicated problem. I wish people just understood that there's a lot more nuance to it. But at the end of the day, like we've got to protect our sovereignty. And when we're bringing, when we have open borders and potentially bringing in criminals, even at a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% chance, that's a lot of people that could come in and do very destructive things to this country. And so I think it's fair to be mindful of that. Anyway,
Yeah.
I could probably go on about immigration, but
No,
it's a tricky topic.
no, you're 100% right. You're 100% right there. But the concerning part too should be that Chinese Chinese are coming in and buying farmland near military bases. Red
Yeah.
flag. Shouldn't be allowed to happen.
I don't know how that's allowed.
Yeah, it shouldn't be allowed to happen. These immigrants that are coming in are sucking up welfare and getting phones and clothes and hotels and five-star hotel rooms and food vouchers for hundreds and hundreds of dollars while there's
Yeah.
homeless veterans on the street.
Yeah.
These like all these things. Why don't we take care of America first? It was
Yeah.
just now until Trump getting into office that someone from the White House went and visited North Carolina, Western North Carolina, after it was leveled by Helene. Finally, they're going in and doing so. Oh, but California, the fires? Oh, we're going to be in there tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Saying you aid tomorrow. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
North Carolina. Oh, you guys didn't swing the right way? Yeah, we're going to ignore you guys.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
it's
And
weird.
it's just unfortunate, right?
It's
And
definitely.
the deportation thing, now that Trump's doing it, anything that's ever going to be under a conservative microscope, as long as the mainstream media is alive, anything a conservative does is going to be under a microscope. Anything, right? Anything they do, say, how they walk, if they have a piece of toilet paper, they'll be like, oh my God, JD Vance had a piece of toilet paper under his shoe.
Mm-hmm.
And JD Vance will probably come on the air and be like, yeah, I had a piece of toilet paper under my shoe. I just went and took a shit because I'm a human being. And sorry, Melanie, I had to take a crap. You poop. We all poop. We're humans, kind of thing. And that's how JD Vance will break it down because he's the freaking one of the best talkers ever. But I digress there. But what's important about this conversation as we wrap up here is that we're saying things. Hold on. I had this thought. I wanted to recap it here. One of the things that we have to do, we have to have conversations like this. We have to have conversations to where we say the things we are told by everyone else to not say out loud. But we're going to say them out loud, and we're going to say them with our whole fucking chest. We're going to say them, right? I don't think either of us were very timid on saying things that
Mm-hmm.
we're not, quote unquote, supposed to say. And that's where we got to teach our kids too, right? We have
Yeah.
to teach our kids to say, well, have a conversation. If you don't know why someone wears like a head wrap or something, ask
Ask
the child. Don't just look at them weird and make them feel uncomfortable. Go up to them, approach them and say, hey, what's that on your head? Because I guarantee, even at the most elementary level, that kid knows what the thing is on their head and why they're wearing it.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it's a
And they
yarmulke.
might even
maybe
enjoy.
it's a turban.
They might even enjoy explaining it to
Well, they
you.
would love
right?
it. They would
Yeah.
love it. That kid will, I guarantee a 90% chance that kid will go home, tell their parents, oh, little Timmy came up to me today and asked me about my my yarmulke or my turban or my head wrap or something. And I was so excited to tell my mom about it because no kid ever asked me about it. They just look at me weird. That one thing, your kid could be that kid that sends that kid home bright-eyed and changes like, okay,
Yeah.
not all kids are bad. Not all American kids are little assholes.
Right.
So
Yeah,
let
it's
that be your
curiosity.
kid.
Like you can't get mad at people who are being curious and asking questions. And to your
No.
point, like truth is unpopular these days, but
Yeah,
truth should never be unpopular. Truth should be truth, and people should be feel free to say it. And in some cases, truth is compassion. Like if you're lying to people, you're not being compassionate. Like you think you're being compassionate, but you're actually doing the opposite. Like and people need truth, and so I agree with you. Like people getting shy from saying what they think, asking questions, being honest is really dangerous.
yeah. No, don't get shy, right? And we have to teach our kids that it's okay to have that conversation. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to stand up for what you believe, even in public school setting. It's encouraged. If my daughter stands up and says, "Hey, there's actually only two genders, and I don't agree with the blue hair freak in the corner,"
Hmm.
great. I have one daughter that's bold enough to say that. The other one, not
Okay.
so much.
Yeah.
And for that, I'm glad it's not both, and not either. At least it's one.
Right.
But we have to teach our kids that it's okay to talk about differing views. It's okay to talk about race, religion, sexual orientation, that it's okay to talk about politics, that these conversations aren't taboo. Lo and behold, they are not taboo. You may
Mhm.
think that they're taboo because you were told they're taboo growing up your entire life.
Yeah.
Especially like millennials and beyond. Like we don't talk about race, don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics. We don't talk about that stuff at the dinner table, kind of thing. It's like, why not? Why can't we? Let's get back to that. Let's get
Right.
back to that because that's what we need. That's how we start it, right? That's how every single individual family can start it. Is start talking to your kids about politics. Start
Yeah.
talking to your kids about religion. Start
And that's
talking to
when
your kids
better
about their
ideas
values.
come to the surface. Like
Yeah,
better ideas come to the surface because you have a better, deeper understanding of what's going on. If you don't talk about it, you're just told what to believe.
exactly. And then it helps them learn. Like we want to help our kids learn. We want to help them see different perspectives, and it's really important. It's really important because then you never know where that conversation is going to lead for your kid, right? You start talking to them about politics at an age appropriate level at 6, 7 years old. Man, it could be the next president of the United States. You don't know. Just because of that conversation, you spark that curiosity for them to learn about government and politics and things like that. Get on a debate team and things like that, and you unlock this whole new path of curiosity and learning for them that
Yeah.
they may have never had before. Or maybe it's history or who knows what it is. So the possibilities are endless. But you never have those conversations with your kids, never gonna happen. And the same is true if we don't have those conversations with our kids, is someone else is gonna teach them. Someone else is gonna teach them their values. And if you're conservative, which you more than likely are listening to this podcast, and you're not talking to your kids about gender and race and critical race theory and gender ideology and religion, things like that, the guarantee that there's someone waiting, just waiting, salivating out the opportunity to tell your kids all that they think can corrupt them, and to get them on their side of things. So don't wait. Don't be idle.
100%. 100%.
So, well, Matt, this has been a really, really fun discussion.
Agreed.
I love fun discussions like this. I love unique discussions like this. They're always really fun, and I appreciate you for sharing your insights, your thoughts here on all the things we talked about today. I love your dedication to fostering critical thinking. I can tell that you do it, and you foster that with your kids as well. It's an example. You're an example how fathers and families can create meaningful change. To our listeners, if you want to learn more about Matt's work and join the GSD Nation community, visit Instagram /my_GSD_nation. And again, thank you for tuning into Patriarchy Principles. Remember, leadership starts at home, and every small step we take as parents and leaders contributes to a brighter future. Until next time, stay intentional, lead with purpose, and keep building a legacy of faith and integrity. And don't forget, if you're going to say it with your chest.